So, Mr. David Toop, Sonic Explorer, I suppose. You have been exploring the matter music from several points of view, a 360 degrees view. And as a musician, which kind of possible music attract you the most now? And as a critic, are there any formula around the world today that is appealing you?
What kind of music attracts me now? What kind of possible music? That's interesting. I think what I'm trying to work with now is trying to find a music where I can use as many levels of technology as I can. So, for example, I compose in the computer using different applications, but I also work with very simple materials like bowing leaves, for example, or bowing a cardboard box, and also using these obsolete technologies like cassette players linked to bone conduction loudspeakers, which I can then attach to any material, even a piece of paper, and it amplifies the sound of the cassettes. So all of these different levels of technology, if you like, that represent the possibilities at this moment. I can go out into my garden and pick up dry leaves. They're very dry at the moment because we're in a period of drought. I can pack those in my case alongside a violin bow and all of these other things, but then I might reassemble all of these materials in a program like Logic or Ableton Live or whatever, and working on all these different levels feels a kind of honest reaction to the situation we're in now as human beings, where we still have this biological level, we still have a troubled connection to what we call nature, and then we work with these very sophisticated technologies, like the apps on my phone or whatever, these kind of things. So that's my approach at the moment. As for the other question about musical systems around the world, no. I've always listened to very diverse types of music. So I listen with interest, say for example, to current hip-hop production. Some of it sounds really amazing, really experimental in many ways. I also don't listen to a lot of music, or not nearly as much as I used to. So I just listen to the sounds around my home and that kind of thing. I don't know, it's complicated for me. It's complicated, it changes all the time. And I suppose I listen to current production styles, for example, partly with a professional interest. Having worked as a producer and working as I do now with new music applications, the computer. So I want to figure out how they work, but somehow they also have to relate to me, to this very basic kind of listening. Well, it's not basic, it's quite sophisticated, listening to small sounds in my garden, for example.
Why music make us glad or sad, or what's the power of music at last?
Well, music has this tremendous capacity to create emotional responses, physical responses, deep psychological responses. I suppose that some of the answers to that will be to do with biochemistry and some will be to do with neurology. But in a way those answers don't interest me so much. Music is a human constant. You find music in every culture. So that's an extraordinary thing. There are very few things that you can say they're a human constant. They're found in every culture. So music has huge significance to us. And why is that? Well, music works with time. And anything that leads to a greater understanding of time is very important to human beings. Music has this capacity to affect us physiologically. It has the power to change mood and to transform. It has the power to take us into other worlds. It also has the power to regulate, I suppose. In other words, to make sense of life, to find some kind of order in existence. Now, why music does that, nobody has yet answered. People have given many partial answers, coming from ethnomusicology and anthropology to neuroscience to psychology or whatever, and all of these answers are partial, and we don't quite understand what it is. But I think one of the things it is that music affects us powerfully, but it's invisible. And it has lasting effects. You could say, well, smell is invisible and that affects us, but it doesn't really have a lasting effect, except insofar as if we can identify the smell of something rotten, we know not to eat it 3 years later. But with music, we can remember. Somebody said to me earlier today, most people relate to music as a kind of nostalgia, and I think that's true. That music that affected you when you were a certain age, maybe young, teenager, whatever, will probably always stay with you. And for some people, they get stuck in that place. They never move beyond that. So the music they like when they're 17 years old is fixed. It's the kind of music, the only kind of music that matters. That's interesting because it suggests that music is very embedded in our formation as human beings. That somehow our development as human beings is caught up in music, and they merge together like this. They can't be separated. And so if you hear, I can hear a note from a record and probably identify it, if I know that music well. So if I hear one note from, say, something I liked when I was a teenager, like a James Brown record or a Beach Boys record, then I can probably say what that track is and remember the mood and remember why, and remember an occasion of listening to that record all that time ago and how it affected me. So music is very extraordinary in that sense, and its invisibility, the fact that it's a temporal medium, it's time, it's always disappearing, so it feels like something is always going away, and that's very important for humans, because humans have the consciousness of death. They have the consciousness of aging and death and loss. Not saying that other animals don't have that consciousness, I think they do, but humans are very acutely aware of it, and they write plays about it, they make films about it, they write books about it, they write poems about it, you know, and a lot of human activity is devoted to this problem, if it is a problem that we all die. So in a sense I think music is very important for that, because it's always reminding us that life is transient, things are disappearing. And it's very beautiful in that sense as well. It's very poetic, that idea.
In one of your books, you suggested to listen differently, to take care about all the sound and silence that surround us. On the other hand, we see that often nowadays we express ourselves with a limited amount of words. We often listen to music that we can call at least stereotypical, often with a lower quality of sound also. How can we expand our sensitivity, how to gain a wider vocabulary or a bigger library of sounds and words at our disposal?
Yeah, well, you really get what you work on, I think. And if you contract language down to a tweet on Twitter, I mean, in a way there's something very clever about that, you know, working within a tiny frame and creating, you know, there are some writers who've written beautiful things just in like a few sentences. But if everything you do is reduced in that way, if you reduce the bit rate of music, for example, of sound rather, if everything is a kind of reduction in that way, then of course your sense of possibilities is also reduced. You know, I mean, I think in a way you should be able to do both. You should be able to work with these very small epigrams, if you like, writing in a very condensed way or making music in a very condensed way. So everything is compressed and absolutely perfect, you know, in a way like a Japanese haiku, where everything is beautifully constructed and works in that very compressed way. But you should also be able to be expansive, and you should be able to read books that are 1,000 pages long also. You should also be able to understand the difference between music which is very low quality, you know, and very high quality. I'm not talking about the type of music now, I'm talking about the technical issues. You should be able to tell the difference. So I think it's a problem if you can't tell the difference. I don't think it's a problem just listening to cheap music on, you know, on cheap headphones, but I think if that's the only thing you do, then you're not really understanding what's going on in music.
You were also investigating the great power of the memories of sound. This is an experience we all have been living. Music is a great vector of emotion and memories in particular. Could you please tell us anything about that?
Yeah, memory is a strange thing with music because, as I've said many times, music is always disappearing. Even if you're listening to a recording, the first minute of the recording has gone, and now you're listening to the second minute, and that's gone, and now you're listening to the third minute, and it's gone. So appreciating music, understanding music, or any sound, let's forget about music, but just any sound, depends on you having a memory. So say if you're a player, I mean, I play free improvisation, so people talk about free improvisation as being in the moment, but it's not just in the moment, because you have a consciousness, a memory of what happened, how you got to the point you did, and you know how that trajectory worked. But you also have a sense of the future, because you're trying to continue the music. You're trying to not exactly work towards something. You're not working towards a climax or a big ending or a completion or anything like that, but you're definitely feeling, I want to keep the group sound going, and you know, I want to keep it productive, and so on. So actually, in terms of time, you're in, at the very minimum, 3 different places at once. I mean, it's actually much more complicated than that, but you know, that's another story. I think memory is an extraordinary thing. You know, that music is one of the last things to go when people lose memory. You know, people suffering from dementia, often the only thing they can remember is music. They can't remember, you know, their partner, or they can't remember their family, they don't know where they are, but they can pick up an instrument and play it, or they recognize a song. I mean, Tony Bennett, the singer, you know, he's suffering from dementia, I think it is, yet he could still do a concert and sing all of those songs. Yet he can't remember the people he's with or anything else. And, I mean, it's remarkable. It's just, you know, if you see film of him doing it, being interviewed, and he doesn't know really where he is, and then he's singing these songs with all these lyrics, and of course he's done it so many times, and it's embedded. So music is kind of embedded in us bodily. So our bodies are in a sense walking archives of music, many layers, because of all the things we've heard. I mean, we remember things that we hate, you know, novelty records that we absolutely hate, but sometimes they'll come into your head, and then just come and you think, where did that record come? I wrote down last year, I was writing in my journal, and I got up in the morning, and suddenly I remembered this record from the 1950s, this stupid novelty record called "She Wears Red Feathers and a Hula Hula Skirt" came into my head. I mean, I haven't heard that record since probably 1956. I haven't thought about it. You know, nobody's mentioned it. Just pop into my mind, and there it is, and I can remember the record. I can't remember all the words, but you know, enough of them to be annoying. So music is remarkable in that sense. It's as if it's constructed to be memorable, and I think that in itself will probably tell us many things about the evolution of human culture in years to come. That music has some very important part to play in self-awareness, and I mean, of course, memory is essential for keeping community together, for remembering survival skills, you know, for remembering who is an enemy to who, all these different things, how to get to my home. And you know, it may be that music has some evolutionary role in all of those necessary tasks, that it learning how to bring structure to sound so that it's recognizable, is in itself memorable, may have helped us to apply that method to other tasks in the past. I mean, people are theorizing on these kind of things, and I'm speculating, but I think music has had a very important part to play in overall the overall importance of memory.
How do you imagine the future of music at last?
I have no idea. I have no idea about the future of music. You know, music changes all the time. So, for example, I've said I have an interest in new music technology. And if you're slightly outside it, you use it, but you're slightly outside it, then maybe every 6 months you hear something that is new and different. That's not to say that it's revolutionizing music, but the way people put together music changes, and the aesthetic changes, I suppose. But predicting these things is crazy. It's like predicting anything in life. There are too many factors. There are too many variables in life to be predicting anything. That's why betting is so risky. I think it's essential that humans don't know exactly what is going to happen. When people say, "Oh, I wish I could win the lottery," but the lottery is chance. So if you wish you could win the lottery, you might also be wishing that other kinds of luck, like bad luck, may happen to you. So we negotiate life according to how we deal with that. And if we don't know what's going to happen, it may mean that we have very creative lives, because we're always looking for new things and looking to find new discoveries and keep alive in a way, against this inevitability of death.
Thank you very much, David. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks very much.